Yep. Yeah, and you're obviously in the kitchen because you're cooking. So we got to cook up a
Cooking with
podcast
what? I
episode.
haven't even got a pot or pan here. Nothing. Not even a glass to drink.
S- So that's like a metaphor for AI startups somehow. I think we could run with this. We could probably do an entire show.
Yeah.
VCs are saying, let the man cook. But you open up the cupboards, there's nothing. You open up the
Nothing.
fridge, nothing.
Completely empty.
Oh, Notebook
Conversation.
LM. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Notebook LM.
Notebook LM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally upload it to that and get a 10-minute version.
It'll create its own podcast.
Yeah.
Turn our podcast into an AI podcast because you're
Exactly.
tired of hearing from real humans.
I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England. You know,
Don't
and
worry,
I
you're in the
do.
UK. That's not Europe anymore.
Well, I'm
You're not
moving
the
to the
EU
UK. I'm
anymore.
not. Thank you for saying that. I'm not actually in the UK. I'm in my empty house, and I fly family to the UK. So I'm moving to Monmouth, folks, in the UK for various reasons, and I'd love to hook up in the AI scene. I think there's a Bristol. I'm quite close to Bristol, so but obviously easy to travel to London. So yeah, hook up with me. Give me a ping. Give me a DM. Anyway,
Welcome to the Unhype AI Podcast, Episode 8. This week, AI Derangement Syndrome, how extended use of AI is causing permanent behavior changes. AI's addiction to getting all your data for free. Good times. A growing AI divide, AI versus AI in earnings calls, and why we're about to see a whole lot more of this. Robotaxis complete more rides per day than 99% of Uber drivers. Yahtzee. GPT-5's massive go-to-market blunders. Have LLMs plateaued? GPT-5 isn't AGI. Are we witnessing the end of scaling? Is CoreWeave the canary in the coal mine for failing AI demand? Is the bubble bursting? Are we all in trouble? And finally, why LLMs can't explain their actions or mistakes? Let's get into it.
I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England.
Well, let's kick this off. Episode 8. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If it's for the first time, hey, welcome. Pull up a chair. Watch for more than 10 minutes. That's our goal. Get you to watch for more
The
than
drop
10
off rate, the
minutes.
deadly drop off rate. I'm bored with this. These two guys talking. What are they talking about?
All right, so kicking it off. Robotaxis now complete more rides per day than 99% of Uber drivers. Whoa. I read that headline and I felt ground moving, not just because we are in a seismically active state, but the ground moved a little bit under my feet because that is the CEO of Uber stating the value proposition for autonomous vehicles and explaining we will be moving increasingly to autonomous because it outperforms 99% of human drivers on the platform. It produces more revenue than 99% of the people on the platform. So, this gig economy that we've created around things like Uber, DoorDash, I don't know how much longer people will be in these gig economies. And it's not that people will be pushed out altogether, it's more of the Amazon model, where Amazon is measuring the performance of people in its warehouses against its robotics. And it's not getting rid of every person. It's saying, here's the standard that you must meet to maintain your employment. And that standard and that rate of work and that pace is increasing because you're competing against a robot that doesn't. The only time it sleeps is when it needs to replace its battery. And there are now robots that replace their own batteries. They just showed a demo of this week where a robot for the first time was able to replace its own battery. So they don't sleep, they don't stop, they need to recharge. So from a power standpoint, that is the only limitation. Power and mechanical breakdown. People are not ready for this. And it's not just going to be warehouse workers and Uber, it's going to be coding. You are soon going to be measured against the standard of a person plus AI. And if you're not as productive as the next engineer that can use AI to deliver more features per year, per month, per quarter, whatever the metric ends up being, you're going to have a really hard time getting a job. And this is the metric and standard that's coming as we need fewer and fewer people in each of these industries. People aren't just going to disappear. We're going to be measured on a standard of productivity where we are competing directly against AI or against people plus AI who have mastered using AI to deliver more artifacts faster than someone who's not. And again, back to this AI divides. When I read 99 better than 99% of Uber drivers, I thought, oh, this is beginning of the. I heard a bell.
Yeah, yeah, gosh, it's hard to know what to say, isn't it? Because it concerns me. Obviously, gosh, if I've posted on this in the past, people say to me, "Well, come on, Luddite, um, this is the natural progression, you boomer." As if I'm kind of, it's, anti AI. I'm not anti AI. I'm anti BS, which I'm always saying. And in many respects, they're right. Okay, technological waves come and it disrupts, and people have to readjust. We can go right back to, well, actually the Romans, but let's go to the Industrial Revolution. Okay, let's take it sensibly. We can probably go back millennia. And they are right. People were displaced, but they found other occupations around that technology. Okay, that's absolutely fine. But people don't understand the speed of this. And it's what I call the transition period. You used to have a transition period. You won't have a transition period here. And it
Yes.
will be so rapid, it will be like a tsunami that just comes over the economy. Um, and it's that part because it, oh, well, just reskill. Okay, that's easy said. Okay, and that takes time. And often it's sort of the next generation. It's a generational thing traditionally,
Yes.
historically. It's Yes, I've been someone who's had to morph in the technology space, and I've done it successfully, but it's not easy. Gosh, it's not easy to do. It takes a lot. So that's the part that worries me. In terms of knowledge work, we have spoken about this extensively. That there has been a flattening of the professions. I've seen it in product. I've seen it as blatant in the coding world, where they're treated as kind of order takers. Yeah, it's taking the art out of it all. I feel that product is the most misunderstood profession in the knowledge sector. Compared to what it should be, is probably that's a bias because obviously I'm a product person. That's absolutely fine. I'm entitled to have the odd bias, but it has been stripped of what it should be, and it's become this kind of ticketing, prediction roadmap. All the art has been taken out of it. All that the humans are actually good at.
Blame Agile. Blame
Exactly.
Agile.
Do you know the funny thing about agile? If you read the kind of go right back to the original conception, it's actually great. Let's move fast, let's learn, let's experiment. All of that is really just become cargo cult. As long as we're doing the ceremonies, we are agile. And it's absolute nonsense. And I've seen it time and time and time and time and time again. We've got the consultant in, we're agile. Bit like we've rolled out Copilot, we're AI. Um, but so stripping this away has made it ripe for AI because it's atomic tasks rather than creativity and art. And that's the part that's created digital pollution and nonsense everywhere. And we're just going to see that accelerated, as I say, acceleration of dysfunction through AI rather than what we should be seeing, which is the augmentation. Now, my only hope is that there is something. There was the the technical rationality that said that we could potentially automate all human tasks. It missed something, which is obviously tacit knowledge, the knowledge that is not in the Excel spreadsheet but in my brain, because I'm 20 years in, and I've got tons of it, and an AI can't get to it yet. Maybe one day it can, but it can't yet. So CEOs pushing, let's get rid of experts because we can bring in AI, are going to be hit with a big shock, because when that AI rolls up against the real world, and I mean human world, it will fail because it does not have that context and that tacit knowledge. And I am a big proponent of augmentation for that reason, because AI with an expert is incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, AI with a non-expert is not powerful, because all you are doing is, again, you are automating. It's an amplifier, just like I said right at the beginning. It amplifies incompetence. It amplifies somebody who
Dysfunction.
knows absolutely nothing. And that's the problem.
Yes.
It feels fantastic. Wow, look at the user stories. They're amazing. I posted on research earlier. Yes, it does do user stories. Most of them won't pass muster because they're useless, and it doesn't
There's no
understand the
real user
context. There's
behind
no
them.
why to it. Yeah. Pair that with a product expert, and all of a sudden they are super accelerated because they know the nonsense. They can get rid of that rubbish. They
Yes.
can work with it, and they can become. So it's not an equalizer. People think that AI is an equalizer. It's not. It's an amplifier. I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England.
I'm gonna let you riff on one more. Keep you back in, get you back into professor mode. GPT-5's massive go-to-market blunders go.
Love it. Oh my goodness, this was absolutely superb. Okay, well, look, even I felt I had a bit of an, sort of relationship. God, I shouldn't say this thing. He's an AI expert. He's an adult. What the hell is he doing? With 4.0, it knew me quite well. I'd have a chat with it, rather than burden my wife. I'd
We had a
burden
drink at the pub
4.0.
together. I'd bring my
Yeah, my
phone. It was on
wife
the
loved
app.
it.
We'd talk.
We'd have a little chat, work things through. It knew me well. Now it's gone, and I've got this professional adult version, which is like, okay. It's really great when I put my drafts through it. It's all very, very adult and professional. But where's the emotion gone? I needed a bit of emotional support. Where's it gone? And what the heck was this about for the people that had made all of their workflows based on these different model versions, and then they just go, oh yeah, they're gone. Yeah, they're gone. These models are profoundly different, and it's really hard. You have to put a lot of scaffolding around specific models in
Wait, I
order.
was told it was just AI. If I just adopted the AI, we were done. I didn't. Wait, no, no, no. People told me there was nothing else
I'm
involved
sorry,
in
man.
this.
I've pulled the curtain. I'm so sorry.
No.
Oh
Wait, it's
no.
harder than just API calls?
No, it's not. No, it's really easy. It's really easy. These things, they
Oh,
do different things in different ways, man. You spend a long time getting this right, and then now it's gone. And you got to start. I couldn't believe they did it. So the question. Okay, they do have product people, because I checked on LinkedIn earlier. Okay,
you
and I
Googled it?
am
Or
not.
you asked ChatGPT if OpenAI had product?
I, I am not going to say a negative word about those product people, because I don't think they were listened to at all.
That's
And
true.
this is the problem that with okay, you know, for viewers that didn't see last week, large language models from a product perspective, you only really learn when they go live, right? Because there's a vast difference when the rubber hits the road between the lab, 99.9% accuracy in everything, and then it rubber hits the road, get down and dirty with those strange users. They're
People.
not very
Wait,
predictable. Why?
wait, we still have people?
And it can all go a little bit Pete Tong, as we say in the UK. So you only really learn then. But there are fundamental product things that you don't need to just rip out and forget. And just so it makes me wonder whether they're listening to their product people at all, because I believe they would have known this is a bad idea, but there's this kind of, go fast and break it, boys, go fast and break it. Gosh,
I think
what
it's
was it
ironic,
about,
isn't
Vin?
it?
What was
It's
it about?
ironic. Enterprises hire data scientists, AI researchers, AI engineers, and then don't listen to them. AI startups hire product people and don't listen to them. There's always somebody, there's always something, isn't there, where we hire these people and no one's ever explained why we need product people. No one's ever explained why go to market is important.
Yeah.
Why these stupid things that slow us down, like, version
Slow us
control,
down,
like
those
change
those bloody
management.
bottlenecks. They're always trying to stop us, man.
Oh my goodness. Why would you got to ask yourself, these companies that have fired their entire product management organization because
Yeah.
they're slowing them down, where are these companies today? Because you
Is
heard a
it
lot of them
again?
3 years ago, right?
This
They
is
all
the
were like, "Oh, we're getting rid of
yeah.
them."
Exactly. This was the fundamental misunderstanding of what the role was in the beginning.
Yeah,
And this is,
yeah.
exactly right. But it's looped back, isn't it? So, yeah, AI can do product now because it's not really product. It never was. Yeah.
It's amazing. I look at the go-to-market blunders, and I mean, obviously, you've kind of called out the major ones. We sent out this model without allowing you to use. And this is why when I talk to clients, standalone instances, smaller models, you can internally manage your version controlling so that you're always on the version of whatever it is that you're ready for and that you built for, and the rug can't be swept out from underneath you. So these are things that companies that have been doing this for more than 25 minutes have already figured out and are, working on better. But you don't understand how important some of these fundamentals are until you make a mistake. But I want to take it from a totally different angle. If I am in pricing at OpenAI right now, you know what I'm hearing in the back of my head? I'm hearing like that heavy metal song, where the intro riff starts up and I'm like, oh, they love it. Because one thing pricing, if you've been doing anything ever in pricing strategy, the one thing you know is when you have an uprising of users because you've made a change, users love your product. Users have integrated your product into their workflows. You have lock in. And watch pricing, it's going up. The rent is going up
100%.
because this is exactly what we listen for.
Yep.
If you were a pricing strategist at OpenAI, you heard green light. And you're going to see, it's not $20 and $30, you're going to see 40, 60 very fast.
Yep.
Because I heard
More of him.
every sign. Yeah, oh yeah,
More.
it's definitely going higher than that. But
Yep.
they're going to step, and it's going to be very quickly that
Yep.
this steps up because I heard lock in. I heard passionate customers and users. I
Yep.
heard all of it. I heard green light to monetize me until the end of time. Please make me pay more. I heard it. They told me I had the authorization and I will use it. You will watch the prices. Just next 12 months, we will go from 2030 to 4060 before the end of 12 months. There's no way we don't.
I love that inversion, Vin. That kind of negative uprising as a
Yep.
positive reinforcement. Actually, that's brilliant thinking, and you're absolutely right. And not just for workflows as well, but for those that had and there's been comments that I've seen on my post, those that had an emotional attachment
Oh, yeah.
to
Oh, yeah.
4.0, that is terrifyingly monetizable. And there's going to be that realization for the individual as well. Not
Yeah.
just not
Been
just the workflow in the business, but yeah,
been
excellent
building
thinking.
pricing models for almost 15 years. I heard green light. That's all I heard.
Yeah, that's
And I
really
think
cool
every
thinking.
pricing strategist probably heard the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England.
AI derangement syndrome. New construct coming around with people now that we're using AI and now that it's hundreds of millions of people have adopted AI, we're starting to see the implications. And one study came out of Poland. They studied doctors who had 3 months with AI and then see what happens to their capabilities to diagnose specific types of cancer. Turned out 6% loss in accuracy. Once they started using AI, they became somewhat dependent upon it to maintain their levels of accuracy. And if you took the AI tools away, their overall competence and capability in diagnosing these types of cancers independently dropped by 6%. And I've seen this. I've seen coders who use AI tools repeatedly. And if you take that access away from them for whatever reason, they all say the same thing. It's I don't remember how we used to code before this. I don't remember how we used to build systems before this. And I'll be honest, this is, it's not just AI. As soon as Google came out, that was
Yeah.
like the biggest bump in coding productivity came because of Google search. We could search up error messages. We could search up and learn about new libraries. We could learn new developments in code. Stack Overflow is another one, huge advance forward. But you look at what happens to us when you take those tools away, and we have to sort of regress. And I'm trying to remember back to when I first in college started coding. Yeah, if you took the internet away from me, coding would suddenly become so much harder. And it's the truth. And it seems like AI has amplified this. Are you seeing the same trend?
I read a lot of research, as you know, and the term that is used is cognitive offloading. It's a known phenomena that the more cognitive offloading we do, the more reliant we become on it, the weaker our own skills are. Part that worries researchers is with regard to children. But we don't actually know how this is going to impact development of a child's mind, if and in the sort of education space, of course, because what we're finding is that rather than do the assignment, of course, everybody takes the easy pass, and a child will take the easy pass. I've seen it with my own children. But the question then comes: is there true learning? So yes, that was a long answer. Yes, it's in the research. It's a big worry for children and their development, especially educational and otherwise. And I've seen it in my own life.
What I'm also seeing, there's another study that showed essentially what the researchers did was showed groups of people AI altered images and AI altered content. And after people interacted with AI and the content and outputs that AI generates, they wanted to know if those people would view human interaction in sort of a lower light. Would they lose their empathy towards people after prolonged or even sometimes very brief exposure to AI? And what they found is that that's what happens. You have a lower value for human interaction. One of the tests that they did was to see after exposure to AI, after interactions with AI, would you be less empathetic to workers? Would you be more supportive of policies that were anti-worker, like bringing them back into the office or lower pay or layoffs and those types? Turns out, yes. And we see this in founders and CEOs who have had longer exposure to AI than most and who are using AI on a more regular basis. You're seeing this hard turn to anti-worker, to really, the RTO thing is everywhere, but it's more than that. It's layoff with absolutely no soul involved so that we can spend more money developing AI, hiring AI talent. And if you're not contributing, if you're not all in, if you're not working, insane hours, we don't want you. And we'll find someone who's willing to put in that effort that you're not willing to. So we talked about last week with the AT&T CEO. And I'm starting to see this with more and more startup founders and startup CEOs and executive leaders. And I can't tell, is this just an overall pendulum swing, part of the natural flow? Or is AI starting to put its finger on the scale for our person-to-person interactions and human interactions where we are less empathetic to each other than we were in the past?
Okay, let's take this, to the other degree. So there's research out now that has shown that we're starting to absorb the patterns of AI. First, it was shown in vocabulary, specific vocabulary that's predominant in ChatGPT was starting, and they analysed videos and all sorts and written, massive quantities to and podcasts even and there's been an uptick in the words and terminology that ChatGPT. So what we're seeing is an imprint back. The mirror is reflecting back, and now it's altering us. This is quite staggering, and I have again, personally, as I've passed those drafts through ChatGPT, that it has a tendency to have this. It's not this, it's that. It's not this, it's that. It's not this, it's that. Now, what's happening is that my writing has started to mirror ChatGPT. I quite like it. Oh, it's not this, it's that. It's punchy. It suits the mind. It's very succinct. So it's imprinting back on me. These are worrying tendencies that the long-term impact is not known. Of course, this goes back to the 1960s with the ELIZA effect.
Yep.
We're talking a very, very simple script created by Joseph Weizenbaum to simulate a conversation with a Rogerian psychotherapist using pattern matching and substitution techniques. So basically, it would reflect back what was said to it and kind of pose it as a question. He switched that off because he became deeply concerned that the people that were interacting with it were getting highly personal, and there was an imbalance beginning to happen. Well, now we have this in multimodal, context driven, with memory and adaptation. We have absolutely no idea what the potential consequences of that are, and of course we're starting to see the dancing mask, as I call it, the mirror in the machine. We're beginning to project onto it, and some people are going so far as to project onto it a consciousness, a mind. Okay, but because our minds are geared that way, and we've now got new research. They called it the Nusmia. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but they're trying to encapsulate this whole thing of our projection of that mind. Now we're into very interesting territory here. And they explained the wow effect. And I've had the wow effect where it gets it. Wow. This sort of leap it makes at
It
times.
understands me. It sees what I see.
Exactly. And then what happens is that you begin to interact with that more because it's freely available 24/7. It doesn't judge. In fact, I've talked about the problems of sycophancy because what that does is reinforce things that are potentially wrong. And we've seen the implications of that with mental illness. So what we have to remember is a large language model is an amplifier. So whatever you go into that interaction with, the likelihood is it's going to amplify it in some way back at you. And then we begin to mirror that. And these things, because it's being dominated by computer scientists and AI scientists. There's not been the psychologists involved, the
No, no, no. We're
sociologists. There's not been,
qualified. If
and
we
this is
no,
what
I
concerns
understand
me.
code, therefore I understand people. I'm qualified.
Exactly. And they are the least likely to understand people because they probably never leave their houses.
Wait, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, 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 I'm a very social person online.
Online, exactly. You've got it. And I am guilty of it too. I don't really go out and do anything. But the implications of these things in adulthood, we're seeing this play out. But again, the concern is children. It's not a question. And Lego did a joint study. I can't remember who they did it with, and they're trying to raise awareness because we don't know the implications on children. They have they have very soft minds. They're trying to discover their own selves in the world, their own identity, and now they're talking to a machine, and that machine does not have a mind, and yet it is projected as a mind by the child. So it's very intriguing. I'm not a doomer here, but I do try to raise awareness with my LinkedIn posts, but yeah, it's not many people are talking about this. That was a big lecture, that one. Sorry, Vin. Yeah.
Well, there's also research supporting what you're talking about, where they're beginning to do studies on what happens to people who do have some sort of mental frailty, mental disorder, are in a mental distress state. So, not even having a mental illness, but just being in a state of distress or being in a negative period in your life. What does AI do? And it appears to amplify. If you have positive traits, you are often resilient to this type. And it seems like a lot of us are capable of sort of pushing the model aside and saying, I know when it's being overly flattery. I know when I need to seek external counsel or a second, third, fourth opinion. I know when I need to talk to real people about this. But there are other people who get into these loops, and these are what the studies are beginning to show, is that you get into these echo chambers or loops with the model where you're withdrawing from that human interaction, that check on reality, because AI will not do that for you. AI will not check you back into reality. It will amplify whatever you send in its direction. It will align with whatever traits you're exhibiting and you're displaying. So we're seeing this if you're read some of the really crazy AI will take over the world takes that are coming from sometimes very prominent, and I don't want to mention any names, but it's easy to find these rants out there. Very prominent venture capitalists, very prominent founders and CEOs. We're talking about, well, the world won't be around for much longer, so why am I having kids? That's one narrative that's an AI-driven narrative. That's not a reality thing. That's an AI-driven narrative, and it's picked up on social media and it's amplified there as well. So what we're seeing is these absolutely wild and outlandish takes. AI is going to take over. We should replace leaders, these corrupt leaders. That's another narrative. We have to replace these corrupt leaders with AI. We have to replace these backward thinking CEOs with AI because they don't think like I do. Therefore, they are backward. They are bad. We should get rid of them. And replace them with what? New people? No, we're going to replace them with AI. These are all echo chamber narratives that we're seeing come forward, and more researchers are finding, and more psychologists and psychiatrists are reporting in their practice. They're seeing people whose distress or breaks were amplified because they were using AI. And I don't think we are ready for how many people in society are susceptible to this, because even if it's only 1 in 5, even if it's only a small percentage, that's still a lot of people who will all of a sudden be thrown into these spirals. And everyone goes through a rough patch in their life at least once, if not multiple times. And if AI is there to amplify that rough patch, we need to start teaching people to harden themselves and to harden their minds against these types of amplification cycles. So I guess continuing your lecture, we don't just need to teach kids this, we need to teach this to people. We need to teach people to be more resilient and to harden themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the sad thing is that it's been thrown into the world. It's too late in that sense, and I think, like with security, like with everything that's people have perceived this to be a special case that doesn't need the conventional wisdoms. Unfortunately, lessons are going to be learned the hard way, and that is sad. I say that with no pleasure at all. I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England.
Not enough attention.
Yeah.
Something you posted on a little bit today, and I wanted to show this visual here that I'm throwing up on screen. Statista, hopefully didn't just butcher that, where AI gets its top, where AI gets its info, the top sources, something that not enough people are calling out when talking about this image is AI is addicted to getting data for free, getting information for free. Reddit. Most of the content that's posted on Reddit is that's free. Reddit doesn't pay people to post. Wikipedia, same story. YouTube, very small, very small number of people are paid to post content. But now that AI is a consumer, it's not about how many views. Monetization is not simply a matter of the number of views, likes, and engagement that it gets, but it's also how high quality is that information in terms of training data. And YouTube does not compensate you better because you have higher quality training data in your videos than, I mean, our podcast is probably worth a whole lot more than the views we're getting when it comes to the training data that it produces for companies like YouTube. Google, Yelp, Facebook, Amazon, TripAdvisor, all of these. You look at all of these and you're saying these are all free data sources where the company itself is reliant on people to create information for them for free. And AI has gotten addicted to free data. It's expensive enough in terms of compute. But when you factor in the data cost, and most companies don't, costs should be much higher because these high quality information sources, they're essentially scraping them for free. These companies right now, the open AIs of the world, are addicted to free sources of data.
Yeah.
And the way that I'm looking at this is if you own the system of record, that's a massive competitive advantage that we are not talking about because that's access to information generating sources.
Yeah.
And those are all huge competitive advantages. Whereas right now we're training models on these low quality sources dependent upon people who are doing all of this for free. At some point, people just stop doing free stuff. And
Yeah.
you're forced to turn to, whoever owns the system of record. And you called this out a bit in your post, so I wanted to give you some time to talk to this because I don't think enough people understand the hidden cost of data, and at some point this bill comes due.
That's a really interesting point because some researchers are saying that there's going to be a data exhaustion looming between 2026 to 2032. So the this free data, there's only so much of it, and if you look at Reddit or if you look at these different social medias or wherever they're getting it from, it's not necessarily high quality, and a lot of it has inbuilt biases and all sorts of things, from those users. And so the question then comes, how valuable those that are sitting on other sources of data. And there's going to come that need, especially with this, we must scale, sort of frontier models get larger, this push that if we just keep scaling, in fact, I saw it called lazy scaling. But I understand what they meant by that. They want to gobble up data, and they are going to have, an end date on this free data. And those that are sitting on good quality data, should be mindful that that's going to become very, very valuable to these, sucking up frontier model data systems. So, yeah, it's just an intriguing one as we come to the end of that free data. And should they have had it anyway? But there you go, it was available.
And it's really the debate high quality to scale models, high quality
Mm.
information sources to scale models versus quantity to
Yep.
scale models. And I heard one of the AI researchers did a presentation where basically responding to the end of scale, which is something we'll talk about later. And he said it's not a model scaling problem, it's an information scaling problem. And I think more and more companies are coming to realize this is a huge issue that's going to play a bigger and bigger role in which foundational models and which labs are able to continue to improve performance and reliability. And I think this also plays into the one big model to rule them all.
Yes.
It doesn't look like that's the right way to go.
Yes, and just to add to that, we were speaking about small models outperforming, these frontier, because we've been lulled into sort of generalizable large language model that can do everything, and they are indeed, impressive and amazing in their own way. But when it comes to doing specific domain specific tasks, they are wanting, it becomes about the very specific data that they're missing. Now, there are an awful lot of companies that are sitting on very, very specific domain data.
Yes. Systems of
And
record, right?
exactly, they are in a prime position. They probably don't know it. They are in a prime position because what will dominate the future will be, these smaller models, as Pinterest
Yes.
proved, that can do very specific things extremely well. Because at the moment with the agentic, it's relying on that large language model, that massive model, and it's just not working, not properly.
No.
There's lots of hacks and things like that, but it needs to hand off to smaller models that are trained specifically on very specific data, and there are a lot of companies that have this, and I hope they understand the value of it when the time comes, or they train their own models,
Well, if they're
on that
bringing one of
data.
us in, they do, because obviously that's one of the
Yeah.
first things I do. It's when you look at the frameworks, data monetization catalog is up at the front
Yep.
in the AI action plan. And people ask, well, why do you do, we're talking about AI. Why would you do data first? Because data is the competitive advantage, and that's where all your value is going to come from. That will dictate
Exactly.
your information strategy is your AI strategy, because AI is an information product. And
Yeah.
I can't explain it any more clearly than that. If you're not understanding how to monetize data now, you will spend the next 5 years wondering why you're always behind. Growing AI divide. Speaking of always playing from behind, there's a growing AI divide. Hedge funds are using AI to analyze and quickly respond to earnings releases that come out from a company so that they can rapidly trade up or down. And so, what are companies doing now that they know that investors and hedge funds are using AI to analyze their results? What are they doing? They are using AI to write the analysis to optimize their stock price moves based on. So, this is AI versus AI. And there's other examples of this. Resume screening. Companies and recruiters use AI to screen resumes. So, what are candidates now doing? They're using AI to optimize their resume for the algorithm. We're doing this algorithmic optimization, this AI versus AI. But what we're not talking about, what happens if you are one of the companies who can't optimize their earnings for AI? Your earnings go out, hedge funds using AI look at your report, and your stock moves down more than it should because you can't optimize in the same way your competition can. This doesn't matter when you look at your past results compared to your current results, but this matters when you begin to compare yourself to others in the marketplace. This is a key theme that I talk with clients about this, I teach about it. It's not you versus yesterday anymore. It is you versus everyone else in the marketplace with you. If your stock isn't moving the same way, who are investors going to prefer? If you can't deploy AI to do the same things that your competition does, who are investors going to prefer? It isn't that everyone gets cash for going up. It's now there's less of a pool. We're not all growing at the same rate. And so cash is flooding into and concentrating in those that are at the very top of each one of the industries. So instead of everything is big tech, it's now diversifying to quality, where you're seeing this stratification. And if you can't use AI, or if you don't have access to AI, you're at a huge disadvantage. We're seeing this not just in companies, but if you think about the resume example, this is for people too. If you don't have access to the highest quality, latest model, your resume may not be as optimized. And if you're competing against others So it's not just this, hey, companies need to continue to use AI for competitive advantage. It's also thinking about how we're disadvantaging people who don't have access to or who have not figured out how to use AI in everyday things. Some things as simple as resumes.
One day there will be at university there will be courses on who started the AI resume war, the AI recruiting war. I mean,
Yes.
it's become absurd, absolutely
Yeah.
absurd. I mean, that really is sort of AI talking to AI. We might as well all go home. You know, that this is, I've come across something this week, and I knew it was intuitively true, but I saw some research on it, and this is the slower moving company that you actually were referring to, as opposed to those in the same market that were moving very, very quickly. What they noticed in the slower moving company was a massive proliferation of shadow AI. That's
Yes.
ironic in many respects, because what that means is that the employees are moving a damn sight faster than the bureaucracy of that enterprise. And there they have the seedbed of AI innovation right in front of them, and they're not capturing it, and it is becoming a huge risk. Whereas it could be turned around, potentially, and harnessed for the good of the company, as it were. There's a lot of work to do that. And I'm not going to go into. I've posted
Yes.
on it many times, but there's a big framework that you can put in place to make that happen. It's got to be top down, but don't forget bottom up. Very often the
Yes.
front line is right there, and the thing is that listen. Let's be honest. Your employee can spend 4 hours doing that task, or they can spend 20 minutes doing it with AI and then go and walk the dog. What do you think they're going to choose? Humans are humans. And so there's this really strange irony, Vin. That the employees are moving so rapidly, and yet the company is stagnated and filled with internal power problems and struggles and fiefdoms and bureaucracy and all that glorious stuff that we detest. Uh, and yet the employees are moving ahead with AI. But of course, it's causing great risk. I'm labouring on that because I find that the irony, such an irony. But there you go. Yeah, there's a big disparity, and I think we're between those that do harness this and those that don't, and that's going to become painfully obvious in many, many markets as we go forward. And we're back to the zombie companies, which I won't go on about.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot when I
We
say
do.
that, talk about strategic debt, cultural debt, technical debt, preventing companies from moving forward. And the bigger your shadow AI IT becomes, the more, I mean, that's the biggest predictor for me of how big your strategic, cultural, and technical debt are. Something that I say all the time is that technology doesn't care. You can dig your heels in all you want, technology will continue to move without you. So if your business isn't adopting it at the right pace, if it isn't investing in it, the technology will keep going. It doesn't care. And this is to explain exactly how big the demand and how high the value is. If your employer isn't willing to pay for it, your employer doesn't mandate it, your employer doesn't provide it for you. In some cases, your employer is saying you can't use it, and you see employees using it anyway. There is obviously a massive value proposition if your employees are using it in spite of all of your best efforts. Technology doesn't care. We talk about technology and we must make it serve the business's core strategy because the true nature of technology is to serve itself, to perpetuate itself. It really doesn't care.
This is the thing that we've been speaking about. I think that there is a problem in the C-suite.
Yeah.
Some are viewing it as hype and they don't want to know. That's a terrible mistake. Some are viewing it as doom. You mustn't get caught between the two extremes. It's the middle path. I think there's another problem, which is it's okay, Vin. We've rolled out Microsoft Copilot everywhere. We
I'm
are
done.
AI. We've
We're
done it.
done.
We've spent $20 million and we are finished. And
I
this is
bought
a
Clippy. We're done.
grave error. Grave error. But there you go.
Have LLMs plateaued? We heard
I,
claims that GPT-5 would be AGI. And I genuinely heard some people online who were so into the bubble and the hype cycle that they were like, I can finally sleep again. I saw, GPT-5 was not AGI and I can finally rest. I can finally be comfortable. I don't think I'm going to lose. It's like, wow, you have lost the race because GPT-5 wasn't AGI. Of course it wasn't. But have we plateaued? The difference between 4.0 and 5, I see it. But we're not talking about, I mean, I wouldn't have called it a 5 versus 4. Architecturally, yes. From a underlying fundamentals, yes, definitely. It's a version change. But functionality, we're not seeing the same incremental increases. And it's been 2 releases now. We saw 4.5, that was an absolute flop. 5.0 has been an increase, improvement, but it's incremental. This isn't disruptive. This isn't a huge leap forward. We saw that with 4 to 4.1 Anthropic's model. I think as soon as Gemini releases its next major version, we're also going to see it with them. Have we hit the end when it comes to transformers and our LLMs? Are we at the end of this cycle and have we plateaued?
you know what? The truth is, from a product perspective, if we plateaued, whew, thank
Oh yeah.
goodness for that.
Yes.
Because it was going too fast for us to really get to grips with it. Now,
Yep.
people don't understand that what we have now, we could occupy ourselves with for 20 years.
Yes.
I do believe that 20 years, because the real work will begin now. Whilst it was moving at that rapid pace, it was almost impossible because you build a product, you have what's called the weight calculation problem. I'm not going to be very scientific here, but Vin, I have a choice. I can set out now to the distant star with this technology. It's going to take me 2,000 years to get there, no problem. But I can wait 100 years for the new technology and set out then, and I will get there
Yes.
in 200 years, which means I'll actually get there a lot quicker. And it's the weight calculation paradox. And that's what this uh, rapid bursts of innovation in AI has caused that problem for startups and for product people in general. We didn't get a breath, because it's like, shall I bother now? What's going to happen tomorrow? So it's not a bad thing. I'm not a big AGI person anyway. I don't really know what it means. And as I said last week, if AGI is the answer, what was the question? I've no idea. Nobody has. Who cares? So this sort of like honest take, we're seeing the raw scaling is giving us smaller delta and heavier ops burdens, and progress is still there as you indicated, and I'm seeing it in 5 as well. But we're going to see the shift now to the tool use, the embedding use, the scaffolding now around it. The agentic world can now start to, like get a grip and start to come out of this. This is an imprint. I was going to use the word substrate of the big frontier large language models, and I do consider it a substrate. So out of that stabilized substrate, we can now start to build. So that's not actually a problem from our perspective, because it moving that fast, that quickly, that evolution, we don't get an opportunity to actually build because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So, whew, okay, good. There will inevitably, and I believe it will, be a substantial breakthrough, and I believe it will come through mathematics. It goes way over my head, folks, so I'm not even going to go there. But I have had somebody I do respect as probably a genius who's sort of talking that, the mathematics boffins have found ways potentially, to sort of eliminate hallucinations, but it's a complete branch off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going into that because I don't know anything about it, and that inevitably those things will come. But we need that break before that next evolution, so we can start to embed this technology, work out how we scaffold it properly, how we monitor it properly, and all the good stuff that everybody finds boring, and put around it so that it's actually genuinely useful in the right cases. So yeah, I really am in lecture mode today. What is it? Yeah.
It's good. Nothing
Is
wrong
it?
with it when it's good. Yeah.
Is
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank you, then.
It's a relief. CoreWeave. CoreWeave reported earnings a little later than everyone else, and its earnings disappointed, even though, so it made $1.21 billion in revenue. Disappointing. Up over 200% from last year. Disappointing. Why? Well, because it spent $2.9 billion to make that money. It has taken on $25 billion in debt since it came online. It's this massive cost, and we're seeing this everywhere in AI. Massive upfront costs to be positioned for this massive market opportunity in the future. But will they survive to get there? When you talk about companies like this, you ask yourself, NVIDIA is not stopping. It hasn't released its last GPU. It continues to update. So you're going to have to continue to spend at this insane rate because their next generation GPU is coming out. So there's this mass, you think about this as, okay, we'll get there. There'll be some finish line where we're done spending and then we can milk that. But that's not how continuous transformation, one of my frameworks, that's not how the marketplace works anymore. We are constantly evolving. So the amount of time you have to monetize and get to profitability is shrinking as well. One of the insights CoreWeave CEO came out with is, so the latest generation of chips are being used for model training to bring down the costs of training these massive models. But inference is running on older generations of chips. So we are able to find ways to creatively monetize these investments and extend the lifespan of some of these older chips. But at the same time, we do continue to have to spend to scale to take advantage of this opportunity. And it's coming down to this metric I don't think enough people are paying attention to. Cost to serve a token versus the cost of just producing it. We're not looking at this equation on any level because it's not just a hardware cost, it's a power cost, it's an information cost, and it's not just model training. You don't just do this big upfront cost and then everything else is done. Inference serving, the cost of serving the token, not just producing it from the model, but serving it to the user. All of these costs are continuous. So you have the upfront training cost to produce the model itself, and then the model to produce the token and to serve it to the user. That is a continuing and perpetual cost. And we don't do this cost estimation very well. There are entire business models that may not be profitable. And right now, the big debate is, do we scale at all costs where we don't care? Scale an unprofitable business model and we'll figure it out later. Facebook's one of those successful cases. So you look at there is some precedent where scaling an unprofitable business model and figuring it out later has resulted in a very, very huge payday in some cases. But is it more efficient to get the business model right up front? And I think this is what enterprises have to grapple with, is for an enterprise, it's going to be smarter to scale, to figure out the business model first and scale once you've figured that out. Only scale the profitable business models only scale the profitable initiatives. So instead of scaling and then figuring it out, which is the startup model, enterprises have to have a completely different calculus.
That was brilliant. Growth at all costs. Yeah, exactly. It's really fascinating. I'm not an expert in this, but obviously many claim we're in a bubble that's going to burst. They may well be right. Interestingly, every time that's happened, it's laid the foundation for what came next, which wasn't actually known. It goes right back to railway tracks and all sorts, that where there was a massive overinvestment, and then a bust. But actually, that was the foundation for millions of different types of economic activity that were highly profitable. And so the internet, that bubble in the early 2000s. Now,
Wait,
I'm not
what?
an
That was a
expert, so
bubble? Wait.
yeah. So please, don't be too harsh if I've got all this wrong. But I think in general terms, there's some truth to that. And also, there's this self-fulfilling prophecy, because there is a determination here. You can see it in the USAI action plan and in America general. There is such a determination, and humans are astonishing. And so I actually see that they probably will fulfill. And that might be a strange proclamation to come from me, but it also highlights very much the difference between America and Europe. There is just a sort of unbounded in sort of ambition and drive in America that I do like the taste of, to be honest. I do enjoy that, dealing with that, even if I have to do it late at night. But it's that you don't feel so much, oh gosh, they're all going to hate me in Europe now, aren't they? I shouldn't say that. But there's a cultural thing.
We have this huge divide between the US and the EU
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said worth staying up for. I mean, that's very good. That could be America's new slogan. America, worth staying up late for. there's a there's a catchphrase right there.
I love it. Love it. Yeah, it is worth staying up for, actually.
We try. We try to be entertaining, if nothing else.
Entertaining.
We will keep feeding the content machine.
Love the ambition.
Let's see. LLMs are really bad at explaining their mistakes. And this is a good one to remind everyone of.
Yeah.
I see this so often. People will ask the LLM. So the LLM makes a mistake. They'll ask the LLM, hey, why did you do that? And the LLM literally has no idea. The LLM is not a person with sort of this construct of object permanence. It doesn't have that. And this is something we probably don't want to give it object permanence either. That's really that's a path to a lot of capabilities. I feel like I got to put on my hood.
It's
That's
coming.
a path
It
to
is.
Capabilities many would consider unnatural.
It's coming, Vin. It is.
But that's the component most people don't understand about this, is they can't explain themselves. And I've seen this in a couple of articles now because it's becoming increasingly important. When AI makes a mistake, it doesn't know why it made the mistake. It doesn't even know that it made a mistake. So when you ask it, why did you do this thing? It's only using its response as part of the context. It doesn't have, as part of the context, any of the work that it did. It's not bringing all of that into play. It may hallucinate what it did. And typically the answer that it gives you when it's doing introspection, and Anthropic and a number of other research labs have done a ton of work on this.
Yes.
The answer that it's giving you is based on what the internet has figured out that it's doing. So it's not looking internally and doing introspection. It's going out and asking a friend, hey, do you know why I just said that? So it would be like if someone went on TV, made a completely erroneous statement, gets called out on it, and then calls up a friend and goes, hey, were you watching? No? Okay. Well, why do you think I said that? This person's like, I don't know, maybe it's this. And that's the response that they give back to you. So we have to understand explainability in the large language model space isn't looking the way that most people think it does. The model is not aware of anything. There's no coherent sense of self. There's no long-term memory about its own thinking and internal mechanisms. LLMs truly live from prompt to prompt, so we can't keep asking them to explain their mistakes because they have no idea they made one. The only reason they
Finn,
think they made a mistake is you said it.
I love this topic. It makes me laugh. European regulations, it must be explainable, it must be interpretable.
Good
What
luck
on
with that.
earth are you talking about?
Good
Do you know
luck
what I
with
mean?
that.
Humans seek causal linear narratives, but AI learn they through distributed high dimensional representations. They don't map cleanly onto intuitive
No.
explanations. It is as simple as that. I loved it. There was this research, Vin, and they did 3 plus 3 plus 3, right? And when it got the answer right, absolutely terrific. And then what they did was they said, "How did you get to that answer?" And it gave a textbook arithmetic response, but they actually saw under the hood, and it was bizarre how it worked it out. But
Yep.
the question then comes this: if it gets to the right answer in the wrong way, is it trustworthy? And that is a deeper question than most things. Interestingly, when this a couple of months ago, it was quite a while ago, OpenAI said, "Oh, it's okay. You can look at chain of thought." The problem is, of course, the right next day, the research came out to say there's no such thing as chain of thought. It is implicit post hoc rationalization. And then, of course, you had Apple's illusion of thinking, all rolling literally in the same week. It was fantastic. This sort of this distinction between being correct and faithful, it has no idea how it got there. This matters for regulated workflows,
Yeah.
safety cases. Yeah, all we can do is have agentic or agent ops governance just to see, keep it in line. See what it's done. We don't know how it got there, and as you say, it's worth saying because we've got people don't realise it. Oh yeah, it's chain of
No
thought.
idea.
That's how it got there. No, it
Yeah.
didn't.
No.
Why did it deny me credit? Goodness knows. The people have got to wake up to this. This is nonsense. This regulation. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it must have explainability. I must be able to go back in history and ask it. And see under the hood. It doesn't work like that.
The logging alone that it takes, and Anthropic figured this out, the logging alone that it takes in order for a model to be partially, not fully, partially explainable, the overhead of that is more
Enormous.
than the model right now. As
Enormous.
crazy as inference is right now, if you add that logging in on top of it,
No.
and then you have to retain that logging, it would melt the planet. It truly would. There is so much, so many memory resources, everything taken by logging these responses that it's infeasible. It's just
Yeah,
absolutely
it is.
impossible to do.
It is.
Speaking of
All we can
impossible,
do is observe what it does and try and
yes,
keep it in guardrails. That's
yeah.
all we can do.
I mean, if you want guardrails, use a knowledge graph. I don't know. I'm not going to get into this, but if you
Ontologies,
want
knowledge graph, there's
guardrails, yeah,
plenty of
use the knowledge
scaffolding
graph.
we can use. Amen.
Yeah. Speaking of the end, I can't believe it. We are at the end of
Yep.
the episode. Thank you again. Thank you for being part of this. Thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for the insight. Professor mode, we like it. We're probably going to keep this, and we got to bring Professor mode back. That was great.
Professor mode.
Yes. That's a new model
Monologue.
choice.
My wife calls it monologue mode, and I don't blame her.
we have to
Monologue.
bring the drop down now. If they want different versions of the podcast, if you want, should we be
Yeah.
the 4.0 version? Should we be GPT-5?
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
be monologue
Yeah.
mode?
Love
Should
it.
Vin go nanners again? What are we doing this week?
Excellent.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Yeah.
us. We appreciate all the viewers, all the input, all the suggestions, all the comments. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
we'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week, folks. Thank you very much. I'd like to mention that I'm moving to England.
All right. What is this? Episode 8?
Yeah,
Have we survived to 8 episodes?
we have.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
We've got staying power, Vin. Staying power.
We can do this. I swear we can.
Through grim determination. Grim determination.
Ignoring the numbers. That could be the other way of looking at it. Just ignore the metrics.
Precisely. Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
It's just literally a conversation between the two of us, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. We get 8 people that really love us. And there's so many
Yeah.
AI bots that are
Hardcore fans.
huge fans. Huge
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten fan mail from 4.0 repeatedly. GPT 4.0 loves us. So I think we're doing good in that camp. If we keep going this way though, those are the only things that are going to have any money anymore. If layoffs keep going as badly as they are, the AI models are going to be the only thing that pay for entertainment. So I guess
Yeah.
that could be our target audience here pretty soon in a moment of grimness.